Dear friends, do you know what is one of the most powerful gifts given by God to humanity? It is not strength of the body, it is not wealth, it is not even power over nations. It is something far deeper, the voice of a woman. A woman's voice is not just sound, it is creation, it is healing, it is guidance, it is prayer, it is the echo of God's compassion in this world. When a woman raises her voice with courage, with wisdom, with love, she carries the reflection of divine energy itself. But sadly, for centuries, many voices of women have been silenced, ignored in families, overlooked in societies, and underestimated in workplaces. Yet, every time a woman speaks with truth, with purity, with love, she uplifts not just her home, but entire generations. The question is not whether women have a voice. The real question is, are we listening? Today, I want to remind every woman here that your voice is a sacred gift from God, and when used with faith and courage, it has the power to transform the world. The voice of a woman is not ordinary sound. It is something divine, something sacred, something that carries the fragrance of God's gift. When we truly pause and reflect, we realize that every sound in this world has a purpose. The rain falls with a rhythm, the river flows with a melody, the wind whispers through the trees with a tune, and even silence has its own language. In the same way, the voice of a woman has been designed by God not just to speak, but to touch hearts, to nurture lives, to inspire generations. Think about it for a moment. The very first sound that most of us hear when we are born is the voice of our mother. We do not understand words at that time, but the tone of her voice becomes our first comfort, our first assurance, our first connection with love. A mother does not need to explain, "I love you," in long sentences to a newborn child. The baby feels it in her voice, in the gentle lullaby, in the soothing rhythm that says, "You are safe, you are loved." This is not just a human act, this is God's design. God entrusted the first sound of comfort in this world to a woman's voice, showing us that her words are not ordinary, they are divine instruments of love. As we grow, the voice of a woman continues to shape us. Imagine a teacher in school. We all remember that one teacher whose voice gave us courage when we were trembling before an exam, or whose words inspired us to believe in ourselves when we doubted our ability. Her voice carried discipline, yes, but also encouragement. She was not merely teaching formulas or history lessons. She was planting seeds of confidence, kindness, and faith. That voice stays in our memory even decades later, because it was not just her speaking. It was God using her voice as a channel to uplift another life. But let's look deeper. A woman's voice is not only for comfort and encouragement, it is also for correction and direction. Sometimes we are lost in life, going down the wrong path, and it is the firm but loving voice of a woman, a sister, a wife, a friend, or a mentor that pulls us back. Her words may not always be soft, but even in her firmness, there is care. Her voice is like a compass pointing us toward the right direction. And once again, when you look closely, you see that behind that correction lies God's silent hand, guiding us through her words. Now think of daily life. A woman's voice has the power to change the entire mood of a home. When she speaks with love, the walls of the house feel warm, the family feels united, and there is peace in the atmosphere. But when her voice is burdened with pain or frustration, the whole house feels heavy. This shows us that her voice is not just sound, it is energy, it is influence, it is a force that can shape the emotional climate of the environment. How beautiful is it that God has given such power in something so simple, something we often take for granted? In society too, When a woman raises her voice for justice, the world takes notice. Many times in history, social change has begun not from the loud shouts of armies, but from the calm, determined voices of women who refuse to be silent in the face of wrong. A single woman's voice has led to movements that shook entire nations. This is proof that her voice is not weak, it is not secondary, it is a divine tool for transformation. But here is the challenge: many women themselves do not realize the sacredness of their own voice. They think, "Who will listen to me? What difference will my words make?" Yet, if only they could see through God's eyes, they would understand that every time they speak truth, every time they comfort, every time they inspire, they are doing God's work. Even a single sentence spoken at the right time can save someone's life, can prevent a mistake, can heal a broken heart. Let me share a simple daily example. Imagine a young girl preparing for her first big interview. She is nervous, she doubts herself, she feels she is not good enough. And then her mother, or perhaps her sister, or maybe even a friend, tells her, "You are capable, you are smart, you have what it takes." That one line, spoken with sincerity, changes everything. The girl walks into the interview not as someone defeated by fear, but as someone strengthened by belief. Now tell me, was that only the speaker's words? No. That was God's way of whispering encouragement through the voice of a woman. This is why I call it the divine gift of voice, because it is never only about sound. It is about connection, transformation, and energy. A woman's voice is the bridge between human hearts and divine intention. When spoken with truth, it carries weight. When spoken with love, it carries healing. When spoken with faith, it carries miracles. So to every woman listening today, remember, your voice is not ordinary, it is not small, it is not powerless. It is the gift of God placed within you. Use it wisely, use it courageously, use it lovingly, because your voice has the power to comfort the lost, to inspire the weak, to correct the wrong, and to bring light where there is darkness. And when you use your voice with the intention to serve, to uplift, and to love, you are not just speaking, you are echoing God's divine purpose on this earth. The voice of a woman is not only a divine gift, it is also a reflection of her inner strength. Strength is not always shown in muscles or in the ability to carry heavy burdens physically. True strength often lies quietly within, and one of the clearest reflections of that strength is how a woman speaks. Her words carry the weight of her mind, the depth of her heart, and the resilience of her spirit. When she speaks with confidence, she doesn't just express her thoughts, she transfers her courage to others. Her voice becomes a mirror of her inner stability. Think about it. When a woman doubts herself, her words tremble, her tone shakes, and her presence feels uncertain. But when she believes in herself, her words flow like a steady river. Even if her sentences are simple, they sound powerful. It's not the vocabulary that gives strength to her voice. It is the conviction behind the words. Conviction is the echo of inner strength. And when conviction lives within, no one can dismiss what she says. We see this in daily life. A mother raising children doesn't need to shout every time to discipline them. Sometimes her firm, steady tone is enough to set boundaries. Why? Because her children know that she means what she says. Her voice carries the authority of love, of care, and of confidence. Her inner strength reflects in her voice, and that is why even young hearts understand and respect it. Think of a workplace. Many times women feel ignored in meetings or discussions. But those who carry strength inside themselves speak with clarity, not with fear. They don't rush their words, They don't over-apologize and they don't shrink. They speak calmly but firmly, and that calmness itself is power. Others listen not because the voice is loud, but because it is steady. That steadiness is born from self-belief, from the knowledge that I have something valuable to say. Inner strength makes her voice impossible to ignore. Let's take a simple but relatable example. Imagine a woman at a shop bargaining for a fair price. The shopkeeper may try to convince her otherwise, but when she speaks with strength, with certainty, her tone shows she is not easily deceived. The same words said without confidence would be dismissed, but when backed with inner strength, those words command respect. This may seem like a small situation, but it reflects something greater. In every area of life, the voice mirrors the state of the heart. Now consider relationships. A woman with inner strength does not use her voice to break or wound, but to set healthy boundaries. If she feels disrespected, she does not remain silent out of fear, nor does she scream in helplessness. Instead, her voice reflects balance, respectful but firm, calm but unshakable. She says, "This is not acceptable." And those words, spoken from strength, carry more impact than anger ever could. Her strength gives her voice the ability to command dignity without losing compassion. In times of crisis too, the reflection of inner strength in a woman's voice becomes most visible. Imagine a family facing sudden hardship. Everyone may be panicking, some may be crying, some may be losing hope. In that storm, the voice of a strong woman becomes the anchor. She says, "We will get through this. God is with us. Do not give up." Her tone doesn't just reassure, it transfers her strength into the hearts of others. People calm down, they breathe easier, and they find courage because her voice reflected her unshakable inner strength. This is why words alone are never enough. It is the spirit behind them that makes them powerful. If the heart is weak, the voice will sound weak. But if the heart is strong, even silence can speak volumes. You may have noticed how sometimes a woman doesn't even need to say much. One look, one short line, one calm sentence, and everything changes. That is the strength of presence flowing into her voice. And here lies the secret. Inner strength is not created in a day. It is built slowly through challenges, through experiences, through faith. Every time a woman falls but rises again, her strength grows. Every time she faces fear but chooses courage, her strength grows. And as her strength grows, her voice evolves too. It begins to carry more depth, more weight, more truth. People begin to listen, not because of how sweet or soft it sounds, but because of the authenticity behind it. A beautiful daily life example is a grandmother telling stories to her grandchildren. The children don't just listen to the story, they feel the life in her voice. That life came from her years of strength, her struggles, her wisdom. The inner strength of her journey reflects in her tone, and that is why her stories inspire even without complicated words. Her voice is a living testimony of her inner resilience. So the voice of a woman, when rooted in strength, becomes unshakable. Even if the world tries to silence her, the strength in her voice keeps echoing. Even if some ignore her today, her words will continue to influence tomorrow. Strength gives her voice immortality because it carries truth, faith, and conviction. Every woman must therefore remember, the strength of your voice will always reflect the strength of your heart. Do not silence yourself out of fear. Do not let doubt weaken your words. Build your inner strength through faith in God, through belief in your worth, through courage to rise after every fall, and let that strength shine through your voice. For when your voice reflects your inner strength, It does not only empower you, it becomes a source of power for everyone around you. The voice of compassion is one of the most beautiful reflections of a woman's heart. Compassion itself is not weakness. It is not softness that bends easily. Compassion is strength wrapped in gentleness. When a woman speaks with compassion, her voice becomes like healing rain falling on dry land. It nourishes, it soothes, and it restores life. Her words may be simple, but the warmth in her tone carries more power than 1,000 lectures. This is the voice that heals without medicine, comforts without wealth, and inspires without authority. Every single one of us has felt this at some point in life. Think of the times when you were discouraged, when you had failed, when you thought no one understood your pain. And then a woman, maybe your mother, maybe a sister, maybe even a teacher or a friend, spoke to you. She didn't tell you that your pain was small. She didn't laugh at your tears. She said, "I know it hurts, but you will be fine. I am with you." Those words, soaked in compassion, lifted a burden from your shoulders. It wasn't the solution to the problem that made you stronger. It was the feeling of being understood. That is the power of compassion in a woman's voice. Daily life is full of such moments. A child comes home with low grades, fearful of punishment, ashamed of failure. In that moment, the harsh voice of criticism can break the child's spirit, but a compassionate voice, one that says, "You can improve, I believe in you," gives hope instead of fear. That compassionate voice becomes the child's inner strength, a reminder that mistakes are not the end, but the beginning of learning. The child grows up remembering not the failure, but the kindness of that voice. This is how compassion shapes lives silently. Even outside the family, compassion in a woman's voice changes situations. Picture a hospital scene. A patient is in pain, worried about recovery, restless with fear. The nurse or doctor could speak coldly, treating the case as just another duty. But when a compassionate woman says, "Don't worry, you are not alone. We will take care of you," the patient feels half his pain dissolve instantly. Her compassion may not cure the illness physically, but it heals the spirit, and a healed spirit recovers faster. Science may explain it as psychology, but in truth, it is the divine touch of compassion working through the voice. Compassion also carries great strength in conflict. Imagine two people arguing, anger filling the room, voices rising with heat. If a woman steps in with compassion in her tone, not accusing, not attacking, but saying calmly, "I understand your pain, but let us find peace," the tension melts. Anger cannot stand for long against compassion. It is like fire meeting cool water. Slowly, the flames die down. Her voice does not overpower by force, it transforms by love. That is true power, greater than domination, greater than control. In relationships too, compassion keeps bonds alive. Disagreements are natural, but when a woman speaks with compassion, she prevents wounds from deepening. For example, if a friend forgets something important, instead of using sharp words, the compassionate voice says, "I know you are busy, it happens." That one choice saves the friendship. Harshness could have broken it, but compassion stitched it together. And once again, it is her voice that carried that healing power. Even strangers are touched by a compassionate voice. Imagine a tired worker in the market, struggling with heavy loads, ignored by the crowd. A woman walks past, but instead of looking away, she says, "You are working so hard, may God give you strength." To others, it is just a line. To that worker, it is a spark of energy, a reminder that his struggle is seen, his effort is valued. Compassion doesn't need wealth or influence, it needs only sincerity in the voice. But compassion is not always soft words. Sometimes, compassion means speaking firmly to protect someone from harm. A mother scolding her child for bad company is not out of anger, but out of compassion, because she sees the danger ahead. Her tone may sound sharp, but behind it lies care, a desire to save her child's future. That too is compassion, protection hidden in firmness. The difference is in intention. Harshness without compassion destroys, but firmness with compassion saves. There is also an invisible ripple effect in compassion. When a woman speaks with compassion, those who hear her are inspired to show compassion to others. It spreads quietly like fragrance in the air. A compassionate teacher creates compassionate students. A compassionate mother raises compassionate children. A compassionate leader builds compassionate communities. Her voice is the seed, and its fruits grow endlessly in the hearts it touches. We must also remember that compassion is most powerful when it is given where it is least expected. To show kindness to the kind is natural, but to show compassion to the one who has hurt us, that is divine. When a woman speaks gently even to someone who wronged her, her voice becomes God's reminder that forgiveness is greater than revenge. Her compassion becomes a mirror showing the higher path of humanity. Such voices have ended conflicts, healed enmities, and inspired peace where hatred ruled. So whenever a woman speaks with compassion, she becomes a channel of God's mercy in this world. She may not even realize it, but her voice is carrying healing energy to wounded hearts. Her compassion in words tells the lonely, "You are not forgotten." It tells the weak, "You are stronger than you think." It tells the broken, "You can rise again." And in all of this, her voice is not just sound, it is light, it is comfort, it is God's love flowing through her. That is why the voice of compassion is never wasted. Even if no one thanks her, even if no one praises her, the seeds she plants with her words grow silently in the lives of others. Compassion in her voice outlives the moment. It becomes memory, it becomes guidance, it becomes legacy. And that is the beauty of a woman's compassionate voice. It does not just speak to ears, it speaks to hearts, and hearts never forget. The voice of courage is one of the most powerful sounds in this world. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the ability to speak and stand even when fear exists. A woman's voice, when filled with courage, is like a flame that refuses to be put out. It shines not only for herself, but for everyone who hears it. This kind of voice is a gift because it carries truth even when silence seems easier. It carries hope even when the world feels heavy. And it carries strength even when the heart is trembling inside. Think about the times in life when speaking the truth is difficult. Many people remain silent because silence feels safe, silence feels comfortable, silence avoids conflict. But the courageous voice does not remain quiet. A woman with courage knows that silence in the face of injustice is also a kind of weakness, and so she chooses to raise her voice. Her voice may not be loud, but it is steady, and in that steadiness lies great power. The courage in her words often comes not from her own strength alone, but from her faith in God, from her belief that truth is greater than fear. In daily life, this shows up in the simplest of moments. Imagine a workplace where unfair treatment is happening. Many see it but remain quiet, afraid of losing their comfort or position. Then a woman speaks up saying, "This is not right. This is not fair." Her voice breaks the silence that everyone else was hiding behind. Others suddenly find the courage to agree, to stand with her, because courage is contagious. Her one voice becomes the spark that awakens the bravery of many. This is how powerful the courageous voice of a woman can be. It does not only protect her own dignity, it uplifts the dignity of others. Consider also the courage within family life. Sometimes women face situations where their boundaries are crossed, where respect is denied. Many times, tradition or fear makes them stay silent. But when a woman finally says, with courage, I deserve respect, I deserve peace, I deserve to be treated with love, that one voice changes everything. She does not only speak for herself, she speaks for every woman who has ever felt silenced. Her courage becomes an example, teaching others that it is possible to demand dignity without shame. There are countless daily examples of courage. A young girl who dreams differently from her family expectations, yet finds the courage to say, "This is my path." A mother who defends her child against unfair judgment, saying, "My child deserves a chance." A woman in a meeting who presents an unpopular idea, saying, "I believe this will work," even when others doubt. Each of these voices reflects courage, not because fear didn't exist, but because faith and truth were stronger than fear. The voice of courage is also deeply tied to responsibility. When a woman speaks courageously, she knows her words carry weight. She does not use courage to insult or to break others down. She uses it to protect, to guide, to inspire. Her courageous words become a shield for the weak, a light for the confused, and a weapon against lies. This is why history remembers the voices of courageous women, because they changed the direction of society. They questioned what was wrong, they defended what was right, and they refused to let fear control them. Even in everyday struggles, courage shows its beauty. Imagine a woman going through illness, facing pain that could easily break her spirit. Instead of letting fear fill her voice, she says, "I will fight, I will survive, I will not give up." Those words inspire not only her, but also those around her. Family members see her courage and find strength for themselves. Her voice, even in suffering, becomes a source of resilience for others. This is the miracle of courage. It multiplies itself in every heart that hears it. Courageous voices also create change across generations. A grandmother who speaks about values, about truth, about living with integrity, plants seeds of courage in her grandchildren. They remember her words when they face their own challenges. They recall how her voice never shook, even when times were hard. Her courage becomes their inheritance, more valuable than money or possessions. This is how the courageous voice of a woman extends far beyond her lifetime. It is also important to see that courage does not always roar. Sometimes courage is as gentle as saying no when pressured to do wrong. Sometimes it is as steady as saying yes to an opportunity others think you cannot handle. Courage may sound quiet to the ear, but it speaks thunder to the soul. A woman who dares to speak with courage is never truly small, because the strength of God flows through her voice. In society, when wrong is happening, when injustice spreads, the courageous voice of a woman is often the one that pierces through the darkness. She may face criticism, she may face resistance, she may even face threats. But her courage is not built on pleasing people, it is built on honoring truth. And truth, when spoken with courage, cannot be buried for long. It rises again and again until it changes the world. So the voice of courage is not just sound, it is action in words. It is proof that fear can be defeated, that truth can be protected, that dignity can be preserved. Every woman must remember that her courage does not only belong to her. When she speaks with bravery, she carries the prayers of many silent hearts. She carries the strength of those who cannot yet speak, and she becomes the echo of God's own justice in this world. That is why the courageous voice of a woman is one of the most inspiring powers humanity has ever known. It reminds us that truth is stronger than lies, that love is stronger than hate, and that light is stronger than darkness. When she speaks with courage, she is not just using her voice, she is shaping the future.